It's Beer O'Clock, and this is the Beer O'Clock Show, where every week we review a selected ale and engage in some light-hearted, beer-related banter. My name's Mark, and joining me fresh from his audition on The X Factor, where he was commented on as being brave, confident, but just not what they're looking for, is my beer mentor, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Good evening, Mark. It's just what I've always wanted. I've worked so hard for it. It's all my life. I've just wanted nothing else than this.
Just give him a chance. His life is over without it.
Exactly. And here's my sob story of my bunny that was run over by a drunken driver in the middle of the night. Just give me a break. That's all I want.
It would have been one of those ones where Sharon loved you and her heart was going out for you, but the other ones didn't.
Yeah, that would have been exactly it, I reckon.
Oh, anyway, enough of that nonsense. We're here to talk about beer. What have you been up to this week, beer-wise, mate? I think you had a bit of a milestone.
I did. I'm only going to talk. Well, I was going to talk about a couple of beers, but then I realised that although we didn't actually talk about it on last week's show, there were clips in last week's show of the Harvestone beers that I drank last week. So I'm not going to talk about them because if people want to listen to that, they can go back and listen to last week's show. So this week it's all about Beer 500, which I finally hit on Untapped at the weekend, and after much toing and froing as to what beer it was actually going to be, I finally went with the Brewdog Ballast Point collaboration, the San Diego Scotch Ale, which had been aged in whiskey casks that had been filled with rum-soaked raisins at the same time. And I have to say, it was a good choice. It was a stunning beer. It was the right choice, I think, for Beer 500. On opening the bottle, it just got instant hits of toffee and licorice coming straight out of the bottle with the whiskey flavours in the background. And in fact, the aroma was so good, it was about 10 minutes before I actually poured it into the glass because I was just sat there sniffing it. When it came out, it was thick, and you know what I mean when I say a beer is thick, as opposed to it's got that thicker feel, thicker taste to it, but it had that lovely boozy taste to it, real bitter aftertaste, like really bitter coffee, chocolate, but as it began to warm, it just got creamy and more toffee and caramel flavours coming through, and then right towards the end there was just this hint of the raisins in the background and the little bit of rum that they had been soaked in. An absolute stunning bottle of beer, which I think if anybody's interested, you're going to really struggle to get hold of now because it was a limited edition bottling, and I don't think there's too many more bottles doing the rounds. But that was my highlight, one and only highlight of the week. Really was hitting Beer 500 on Untapped.
Well, congratulations!
Thank you very much. Forging ahead towards the 1,000 mark now.
Yep, head down.
Yes, get there by Christmas. Crack on. Priory in January. Here we go.
How many weeks have we got until?
Oh, do we have to?
2.5 months,
6?
right?
No, 12, 10.
2.5 months.
I'm just throwing numbers out, aren't I?
10 weeks. All you need to do is drink 50 beers a week and you're done. No?
That's not going to happen. No.
No commitment.
I reckon I could probably get to... If I gave it a really good go, I could probably get to about 700 by Christmas.
Well, that's only, 25 beers a week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Easy.
still a lot of beer a week.
Well, you only have to taste them, remember, for Untapped. You don't have to have a full pint.
No, I thought it was tasters. I thought tasters were allowed.
That's what I said. You only have to taste them.
Oh, sorry, misheard you there, mate. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start going into pubs and taking sips out of people's glasses. Be like,
just stick your head under the taps.
So what's that guy doing? I'm just having a taste.
It's all for science.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All for research purposes.
Oh, we forgot to mention last week about the Great British Beer Hunt winner. They had the little do the other week, right?
Yes, they did. We didn't get get to go, but Emma went along for us from Crema Brewery. The winner, rather surprisingly, second place was the Daniel Thwaites Crafty Dan, which was an absolute stunner of a beer. And if it had been down to Twitter alone, I think that beer probably would have won. But it didn't. It was beaten in second place by one of the Bateman's brews that was in the final, a beer called Bock or Bock Bee. I don't know. It was one of the ones I didn't try because I didn't fancy it. But by all accounts, quite a surprise winner. So that now gets a 6-month contract in Sainsbury's on the shelves. And I think the Thwaites one gets a slightly shorter run as well on the shelves. So I would recommend if people do see the Crafty Dan on the shelves in their local Sainsbury's to pick that up, because it's a great pint. It's a really, really nice beer. But if you want to check out Emma's review of the event, which she did for us, head on over to their website, which I can't find. Hang on. It's cremasbeerodyssey.blogspot.co.uk. Head on over to their site and you'll be able to go along and just have a look and have a read about the whole event that Emma was at for us. It's quite a nice read. She did a really good review for us. So thanks to Emma for going along to that, and thanks for doing the blog as well.
Indeed. Crema's Beer Odyssey. blogspot.co.uk. Let's see if I've spelt this properly now. Oh, I did. Look at me.
Yeah, but we've been tweeting about it anyway, and we'll continue to do so for another few days, and then it'll be forgotten in everyone's business. But the biggest news of the final is that Sainsbury's aren't doing it again next year. They're not doing the Great British Beer Hunt. They're focusing on some sort of beer marketing campaign instead. Okay. So not sure whether there's going to be a replacement or that or anything that yet. But I know I was certainly involved in a few discussions immediately after that announcement with some other bloggers about maybe a few beer bloggers getting together and running their own Great British Beer Hunt of sorts.
That'll be interesting.
So watch your space for that one.
Indeed, and talking of beer festival type things, the Wetherspoons one starts this week.
It does. Kicks off on Wednesday until it's either until the 31st of October or the 2nd of November. Lots of American brewers been sent around England to do some collaborative brews with some of Britain's best brew houses. Adnams are in there again. The one that I'm after is the Stone Adnams collaboration on a black IPA. But it seems as though, because I was out on Friday night, and it seems as though some of the beers have sneaked into some of the Wetherspoons early, because I managed to sample a couple on Friday night from the festival. But obviously by the time people are listening to this, the festival would have already started. So get down to your local Wetherspoons and tweet us and let us know what you're thinking of the beers that are on offer for this year's beer festival.
Indeedy. So looking forward to seeing some of the beers coming through on that. More beery group social stuff. The beer conference on the weekend. Indie Man beer conference. What was that?
Yeah.
I haven't heard about this, so tell me about it.
Twitter was absolutely awash with people having what can only be described as an amazing time at the Indie Man Beer Con Festival in Manchester. But as we weren't there, we're not going to talk about it. Moving on.
Fine.
We'll be there next year, though. At least I'll be there next year. I plan to spend the weekend up there next year, but that's as much as I'm saying for now.
Whereabouts was it again?
Manchester.
Oh, yeah, you can go by yourself. I'm rude.
Thanks.
And we're ploughing through the news items tonight. We have an interview with the Hop Stuff Brewery that's coming up at the end of the show. Tell us a little bit about this interview.
I met up with James from Hop Stuff a while back. He crowdsourced the funding for his brewery a few months back, and they're now in the process of they're starting to build the actual facility down in Woolwich, and all of the stuff, all of the details behind what they're doing is all in the interview. So make sure you stay tuned at the end of the show to listen to the full interview with James.
Okay,
some exciting stuff coming, though, it sounds, from Woolwich in the next few months.
so he's a guy that's starting up his own brewery, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Cool. That'll be really interesting to hear. And the final bit is this is Beer O'Clock Show stuff now, in conjunction with Cam RGB. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
it's
it.
a Back in Black event. It's a Twitter event on the 1st of November. I'm going to give all the details about this because I know about this now.
Woo!
Well, we're encouraging you to engage with us and everyone else on Twitter on the 1st of November, which is a Friday evening, starting at 7 p.m. Correct?
7:30.
7:30, you're fine.
You can start at 7 if you want.
And basically we're drinking black beers, whether it's black IPAs or porters or stouts or whatever. Back in Black, the great AC/DC song, bit of a tribute there. And what's the hashtag? Is it Back in Black that we're using?
It is indeed, yes.
Okay, use that hashtag, Back in Black. Drink your beers, check them in on Untapped. Have a chat back and forth with the Beer O'Clock Show crew. I'll be doing it. I've got about 5 beers lined up. You will see me get progressively drunk over the course of 45 minutes, in which I pound them all down, as is my wont. And it's going to be great fun. So, Steve, you've been unveiling the beers that you've got lined up for this.
I
For the
have.
last couple of weeks. What's your number 3 beer that you've got for tonight?
So number 3, bearing in mind that prior to this, and I'm going to do kind of a count back every week. So prior to this, my first beer would have been a black by Crouch Vale, coming in at 6%. I'm then moving on to a Fade to Black by Weird Beard at 6.3%. That's a black IPA. My third beer of the evening is going to be it's a collaboration beer between the Camden Town Brewery and the Odell Brewing Company, who we featured a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And this is a Baltic Porter that will be weighing in at 7%.
Wow.
Which part of the Camden Versus series. So this is Camden versus Odell. It's essentially a mixture of the Camden Hell's Lager and the Odell Cutthroat Porter. And by all accounts, when they do these sorts of things, they literally just blend the two beers together to make one new beer.
Yeah.
So this one is supposed to be rich, dark, and smooth. Be my third beer of the evening, getting progressively higher on the ABVs, weighing in at 7%. Camden versus Odell Baltic Porter.
We need to do that ourselves one night. Just grab 2 random beers and blend them in a pint glass together and see what comes out.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more skill to it than that.
Well, surely you just pour them in, you get a swizzle stick or something and whirl it around a little bit, and ta-da, you've got your own blend.
I'm not sure that would work. Although it could be fun trying it. Think of the two most random beers. I'll tell you what. Let's put that out to our legions of fans. Which 2 beers would you like to see Mark and I blend together in a glass using a Twizzler stick and then drink?
Yes.
Come on.
There you go. That's a challenge for the final show of the season. Let's do that.
Yes. Let's do it.
Green King IPA and our Fuller's Vintage Ale from 2012.
That would be criminal. That would be almost criminal.
Oh, I've still got that Vintage Ale sitting right on my desk as a testament to our quality of beer podcast.
Yes. Yes, that's aging well.
And for Back in Black, I've found 2 more black beers on my shelves. One is the Anchor Porter from America, and the other one is Harvey's Stout.
Excellent.
I've somehow got. I don't know if it's even in date. I'm assuming it is.
Is it the normal one or is it the double extra imperial stout?
No, it's the normal one, I think. Let me have a look. I'm just going to walk over to my beer shelf.
Okay.
And see if my headphones will stretch. Just a second. No, it's just the Harvey's Sweet Sussex Stout. It's only 2.8%, so it can't be terribly good.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, it's a very low ABV, that one.
Oh, I think this is... No, it ran out August. I was given this a year ago as a leaving present from my old job.
Probably best not to do that one.
The sink will be drinking that one.
Yeah.
That's a shame. Never
Oh,
mind.
I must just say actually, while we're talking about stouts and porters, after I did my beer 500, I decided I'd do another beer, and I shouldn't have done. I knew it was a mistake trying to follow it with anything, but we got sent some. I don't think you know this yet. We got sent some beers from Dominion Brewing last week, and one of the beers that were in there was a oak aged stout. And I thought, oh, that'll work well after a beer that's been soaked in whiskey barrels with rum-flavoured raisins. Unfortunately, I had high hopes for it, but it ended up, it literally tasted like black water, which is a real shame because I think there were probably flavours in there. And a couple of people tweeted me, including Dominion Brewery, and said, well, actually, you should have got some flavours from it. And I just think that the Brewdog Ballast Point collaboration had just killed my taste buds for the evening. So it'll be interesting when you get your bottle of that to see what your thoughts are on it, and whether you'll do it with a slightly cleaner palate than I had, so that you can actually get something from it.
Yeah, and I'll not have it directly after an epic beer as well.
No, I wouldn't. I knew I should have stopped. That was the thing, but I had a taste for it after that one, and I was like, where do I go from here? Should have just stopped. Should have just gone to bed.
No, never mind. You'll learn the lesson next time.
I will. Well, I've learnt my lesson this time.
Right. It's beer time. It's not that we haven't been talking about beer already, but now it's time for our weekly selection. This one, it is one of the American beers that we've been slowly getting our way through during the course of this season. This one is from the Flying Dog Brewery, and I've had some Flying Dog beers before, strangely enough. And it is a 7.1% ABV IPA called the Snake Dog IPA. And I love their labels.
They're really amazing. Cool, aren't they?
Yeah, really funky. Yeah. So this one, it snakes down the throat like a faithful friend, apparently, according to one review. So Steve, what can you tell me? Go on.
Oh, I was going to say, there's not much on the label for you to go by this week, is there?
The ingredients are water, malted barley. I won't go that far. So, what do you know about Flying Dog, other than the fact that they're based in the United States?
Not a lot really. I mean, I like yourself. I think I've tried a couple of their beers. The most recent one I think was they do one called Doggy Style, which I've had, which is quite widely available in quite a lot of bars in town.
I've had that one. Yep.
I don't really know too much about the brewery, and literally I've just looked the beer up before we came on tonight. It's got Warrior and Columbus hops in it, American ale yeast. So I'm imagining we're going to get some really strong American hoppy flavors from this, much like the Odell that we did a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Flavor notes, we're looking for big citrus, notably grapefruit, a hop aroma and flavor with caramel malt. Apparently it pairs well with Mexican, Thai, curry, wasabi, buttery and spicy cheeses and exotic fruits.
So it pairs well with food.
Pairs well with all spicy and fatty food, apparently. Lovely. Yeah.
They're my favourite types of food.
A few months ago, the sorts of foods that I was dreading, but now I'm eating the lot.
Right, well, let's hesitate no longer. Let's have a trip across the pond and crack open this Flying Dog Snake Dog IPA. Oh, it's quite fresh on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah. It's quite literally like a breath of fresh air on the nose. It's like stepping outside on a cold morning and getting a good lungful of the morning air.
That's a nice golden colour.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lovely head.
One finger head on that.
Good carbonation in there as well.
Lightly fizzy.
Yeah. Little bit cloudy, which is good.
Very clean on the nose.
Yeah. I'm getting more of the caramel coming through on the aroma than anything citrusy at the moment.
Yeah, very lightly caramel
Yeah,
or caramel.
nothing citrus or hops coming through there though, which might mean I've got a pleasant surprise coming up when we get a good mouthful of this.
Yeah.
I love that. It's a really lovely smell, actually. Really warming.
Trying the different nostril test.
I ain't done that for a few weeks, actually. Hang on. I'm getting like a little bit of tobacco from that side. And the other side's completely blocked, so I'm getting nothing.
Same.
Pointless exercise there.
Pointless exercise, but it's quite a fresh aroma to it.
Yeah.
Not overly hoppy. A slight sweetness to it.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So
Looking forward to this.
Let's get into it, mate.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. You get an instant hit of the bitterness that the minute it washes over your lips and into your mouth.
Yep.
But that just begins to soothe as you start taking it down to a point where it just eases to a nice sort of creamy texture and a creamy finish.
I will say that the initial aroma is completely different to what went into my mouth. It was like a really malty hoppiness. But my first thought was, this tastes like a proper beer.
Yeah.
Like that proper, really core, malted, beery taste that you get from something. I wouldn't peg this as an American IPA, actually.
I wouldn't, and considering it's, 7.1%? It doesn't feel like a 7.1% beer. It's a very easy drinker.
Yeah, if you put this in front of me and didn't tell me what it was, I would think it was a medium strength English bitter with like an English hoppy bitter. Not even necessarily an IPA. Maybe not one of the less overboard IPAs. I mean, so many IPAs are overboard now.
I'm getting almost burnt caramel off of it now. Married with there's some citrus coming through, but it's not the massive citrus that you normally associate with the big American IPAs or just with the big massively hopped IPAs either.
I'm getting a really badly burnt biscuit from it. I'm not getting any citrus.
It's ever so slight. I'm not overrun with citrus, that's for sure.
It's interesting.
It's too easy.
The hops linger though. You get that really lingering bitterness.
But when you compare it to say like the Odell that we did, that there was all those different varieties of different hop extraction in there, from the essence to the hop itself to the leaves and everything, but that came through on the flavour. This is it's got hops and they're very bitter, and they leave a very bitter aftertaste in the mouth, but almost too bitter, the aftertaste in the mouth.
Yeah.
But other than that kind of burnt caramelly type flavour with maybe a little bit of a squeeze of lemon on it or something, that there's not much else coming through on this for me. I can see why it would go well with spicy foods, because that bitterness would really counteract the spice, I think.
But I'm not sure if I would pair this with spicy food, to be honest. I think this would go well with a nice big bloody steak and chips. What?
Everything goes well with steak and chips. It's like saying it'd go well with a burger.
Oh, this would go fantastic with a burger.
Last week I treated myself to when I was on my way to the Harvestone tap takeover, I went to a place called Bodine's, which I think I mentioned to you before on a text or something. And I know some of our listeners will be aware of Bodine's, but they do. It's basically barbecue and pulled pork type stuff. And I had an amazing plate of pulled pork and burnt ends. Now, if you've never heard of burnt ends. Yeah, if you've never heard of burnt ends or you've never seen them or tasted them, basically they're the little black bits that you get at the end of meat that have been covered in a light barbecue sauce, and they're just amazing. But they also, the Bodine's restaurants also do a really good range of American craft beers, and they had I had to wash down my meat. I had a Red Hook Long Hammer IPA, which was quite in terms of the bitterness that this is leaving, it was very similar to this, but it was much more citrusy, much more lemony. It was almost like a alcoholic 7-Up. It had like lemon and lime flavors.
Wow.
This is just giving me nothing other than burnt caramel.
Yeah.
And bitterness.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say, I mean, this is why we shouldn't read tasting notes, because we're kind of expecting the citrus in there, and there's no citrus in there. But judging it on its merits, if we didn't know anything about it, it is a pretty decent, heavier tasting beer with, you know, a nice hop profile to it. But it's not fantastic. For an IPA, it's a nice strong IPA.
Yeah, it's not. It's certainly from recollection. I much preferred their doggy style beer, which I think was just a pale ale. That was a much easier drinker. It had a lot more to it than this.
Yeah, I agree. There wasn't.
Yeah. But we don't read the tasting notes for us. We read those for our listeners.
We read them for us so we know what to taste, Stephen. Come on.
No, we don't. We allow our own palates to find flavours to talk about. We don't sit here and go, right, where's the grapefruit? Is it there somewhere? Yeah.
But I have to say, the nose on it being completely different to the actual taste, I always like that in a beer. Gives it some depth anyway.
It's like, yeah, it is strange. It's almost like the taste doesn't do the aroma justice.
Yeah. Coming to the end of it now, I'm not liking it a great deal. Now that I'm left with the bottom of a glass with just a burnt malt. Burnt biscuit.
I'm done. That's a first for me to finish before you.
Normally I always struggle on these type of beers where there's nothing to it but that burnt malty taste. Not a great. I'm not going to say it's not a great beer because I'm sure. Well, okay, my opinion, not a great beer. It's a middle of the road beer. It'd probably be going in as a 3 on Untapped. Although, I mean, it did snake down my throat like a faithful friend, as Anna Stedman says on the bottle. Well, either that or I just necked it to get rid of the bitter taste. So I'm not sure I'll finish one. It's kind of not doing me any favours at all.
If we were kind of having, and this might get more challenging towards the end of the season, but to remember them all, if we were having kind of an American craft beers league table, I think at the moment this would be sat at number 3, and that'd be behind probably Odell at number 1 and the rather mainstream Goose Island at number 2. This is probably a number 3 at the moment.
Yeah.
For me.
Yes, alas. And we've still got a few more American beers to go in the season as well, so...
We have, quite at least 3 or 4 more, I think.
Yeah, we've got the Bear Republic Red Rocket, Sierra Nevada Bigfoot 2013, the Kona Fire Rock, and the Rogue Mocha Porter.
And the Anchor Steam beer.
And the Anchor Steam beer, although that's not in our beer box, but it is an American beer. I just have to buy one.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, little inside baseball for for you guys. We were actually supposed to do the steam beer tonight, but I didn't have one, and I wasn't anywhere I could buy one before, so it's not my fault, honest.
It's a good job we had the other beers for backup, so isn't it?
It's only that, I mean, Steve only gave me the beer list 6 months ago, but never mind. We'll have one in time for when we reschedule it, for sure. Right. Anything else you want to say about this beer? You're rating it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, it's definitely going in as a 3 for me.
Yeah, that's about it for me. It's drinkable, it's not disgusting, but I would hope it would have a slightly more complicated taste profile to it. But
yeah,
if you're looking for a nice, strong IPA and you can get your hands on this, why not? You won't be disappointed. Necessarily. Right.
You look so sad saying that. You do look as though it's like Christmas morning and you've opened a box and expecting something to be in there, and you've got kind of like a bag of oranges.
The label
or
looks so
something.
awesome. I was hoping it'd be this amazing beer, but never mind.
It is a little bit of a letdown,
It is a little
and
bit.
to be fair, quite a few of these beers that we've done, the American beers that we're doing in this season, because it was me that chose them. I kind of went for by the label rather than anything else because I didn't really know too much about them. So yeah, it's that whole judging a book by its cover thing again, isn't it?
Indeedy. Never mind. Right, that's it. You can find us on Twitter at Beer O'Clock Show. The website is beeroclockshow.co.uk. Stephen, thank you. We've got the Hop Stuff Brewery interview coming in just after the little outro music, so stick around and listen to that. But meanwhile, Steve, thanks very much. What do we have lined up for next week?
We have got the Bear Republic Red Rocket Owl for next week. Another American beer. And also a very special interview coming as part of next week's show.
Oh. You're not going to tell us?
Not revealing any more about that this week.
I'll
Saving
after
all
I press
that.
stop. Right. Stephen, thank you very much.
Mark, it's been the highlight of my week.
And it's only a Monday.
Exactly.
Right,
Can only go downhill from here, can't it?
And it's gonna. Right, till next week. Thank you very much.
See you next week.
Cheerio.
Hi, it's Beer O'Clock, and I'm here with James Yeomans from the Hop Stuff Brewery. Hi James, how are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. James, Hop Stuff Brewery, what's it all about?
Good question. So just to give you a bit of background, I'm a city boy and bored of drinking Fosters and Peroni everywhere I go.
Aren't we all?
Exactly. You know, it's that simple, really. You know, we started looking at real ale. We started looking at craft beer. We love the scene around the whole industry. There are a lot of people out there doing some really interesting things at the moment. I think our local area of Greenwich and Woolwich in southeast London is lacking, certainly compared to East London and some of the boroughs out there. And we just wanted to bring that refreshment to a new market. Which is exciting.
Interesting that you say Greenwich is lacking.
You're going to say meantime, aren't you?
I was going to throw meantime at you and see what you thought about that.
Yeah, no. Meantime are very good. They make some really interesting and really nice beer. You know, but it is filtered. It's not bottle conditioned. It's not hand pull. It's gone away slightly from a more traditional base, and I don't think there's anything wrong with bottle conditioned or cask conditioned. I like that market. I think it's a big growth market, and I think that there is room for us to work alongside Meantime, and we've spoken about doing a few things with them, and maybe complement each other in our two different styles of making different types of beer.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you recently put out a Crowd Cube. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because you've hit your funding target now,
yes.
haven't you? Congratulations on that. So tell us a little bit about why you went for that route, and why that was your chosen route, and how you've got there, and what happens next for it.
Okay. So originally we started looking at a smaller project, a couple of barrels, and I could do it socially. And then as we kind of explored it a little bit more, we thought, well, why not jump into this and go for it? We like what we can do, and I was brewing with a guy called John Hatch at the Ram Brewery on the site of the old Young's Brewery in Wandsworth.
Okay, yeah.
So I went down there and I was doing a few sample batches with him and just kind of working it all out, and I thought, we're on to something here. It's good. So we went down the route of looking at banks and asking the bank manager very nicely, and to be brutally honest, he said no. They weren't happy with the debt to equity split being higher than 50-50, and we just simply couldn't raise that much money on our own.
Yeah.
So then we started looking at ways of getting beer enthusiasts and kind of business enthusiasts and people to support our project, and we looked at Kickstarter originally and saw that the amount of money raised was quite small, relatively. So we then decided equity was the right route. Crowdfunding is booming at the moment, and I urge anyone to go and have a look at Crowdcube. It's a great platform, some really interesting businesses. They do very well in beer, they do very well in retail and cupcakes and whatever it might be. Anyone's dream of selling their own brand and product. So we went down the route and started looking at that and started formulating our plan, which was originally to raise £50,000 for 30% equity. We hit that target within a month, which blew us away. We're up to about £40,000. Up to about £30,000 fairly quickly, and then it kind of plateaued for a little bit, and people were coming in. I was speaking to a lot of people, and then a few more rather serious investors came in with chunky investments, £5,000 plus. And then finally it closed out with one investor putting in £10,000, which left an awful lot of people wanting more. So we opened it for a further 5% of the business. Just think of Crowdcube as being an online Dragon's Den, and you start to get an impression of kind of how it works.
Yeah.
If you don't raise the full amount, it closes and you don't get anything. It's that sort of thing. But we hit our target. We hit it phenomenally quickly, and then we opened it up for another 5%, which is £8,000, and we did that in 12 hours. I took my motorbike up to see my little sister in Norwich, and by the time I'd taken her out for lunch and driven back, our second round of funding had closed.
Brilliant.
It was that quick. And I think it's a really good way to let people get involved. You look at the kind of the LBA and London brewers, and they're all very much started off from kind of a couple of people's money, and there's not really there's a social aspect in the beer, but there's not a social aspect in the business, if that makes sense. And by offering people a chance to buy into it, we had so many people who said, we just love the London beer scene, we love what's happening at the moment, but we can't get into it other than just buying it. So this provides us an opportunity to get involved. And we had a lot of people from the Woolwich Arsenal buying into it, which is where we're going to be based, which was great to see, a lot of local support. And there we have an audience of 3,000 homes already ready to go. That is our catchment area, if you like, straight away. And it was great to see how many people who contacted me and spoke to me about living locally or living nearby and wanting to get involved.
I think it just shows how popular the craft beer real ale scene is at the moment. Again, there's a real resurgence going on, isn't there? And we know that, and we know that there's lots of fantastic things going on in London. What can we expect from the Hop Stuff Brewery? What are you going to do that's going to, I suppose, set you apart?
Differentiate ourselves, yeah. So we've been asked this a couple of times, and it's a question I quite like to answer, because I think there are kind of two routes to go with a craft brewery. You can either make yourself very niche and target a very small amount of people and sell an awful lot to that, or you can go more traditional and you can sell to quite a wide variety of people, but via pubs and things like that. And I don't think that's the only two options. I think that there's a lot to be done around the social aspects of the brewery. There's a lot to be done with just having fun with beer. We want to get ourselves into festivals. We want to start pinching Carlsberg's market, because there is a massive amount of interest of people who go to these type of events and they're offered Carlsberg or John Smith's, and that's kind of all they get. And there's a market there for a fun beer, for a social beer, and so we'll sell to our local markets. We'll be in all of our local pubs. We're speaking to them already about making sure we're in place. But then we hope to build something that people can get involved with and people can have fun with. We don't just want to produce beer for the sake of producing beer. We want to produce beer that people are drinking and people are liking. And I think there are some breweries that have cottoned onto that and are doing it very well. But I think there's room to improve and there's room to grow. And I think collaborating with the LBA and working with them can only help us do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So is it just bottles that you're looking at, or are you going to be doing bottles and casks?
It's bottles and casks, and we because we went through this whole crowd cube thing, we had to build a rather complicated Excel model with it all breaking down, and we kind of see 3, 4, maybe 5 kind of ways our beer's going to be out there.
Yeah.
We'll be on cask and we'll be in pubs, and we're already speaking to a lot of pubs about doing it. I mean, as I said, the southeast London area is missing its local hand pull. It's getting stuff from East London, it's getting stuff from Southwest London or North London. But Southeast London itself, there are some very good breweries there, but they're quite small and they're not able to scale. So we'll be in our local pubs. We'll be selling bottles as well. We've got a website coming along which is looking really good, and I'm quite excited about it. And then we want to work a lot with our local community as well, and we want to host events. We want to sell bottles to people who can just stop off at the brewery on their way home from work, and just they fancy a 6-pack for the weekend, then stop by and come and get it from us and drink your local beer and enjoy it. But then, if you come and visit a friend near us and you like it, then order it online.
Yeah.
It's available everywhere.
It's just giving people options, isn't it? It's different ways of getting hold of your product that will appeal to everyone. In your business proposal that you put together, you compare yourself a few times to BrewDog, which is quite a big comparison to make. There are people that would suggest that maybe BrewDog's ways of doing things are a little bit arrogant sometimes.
Yeah.
Your marketing strategy not going to be quite so arrogant, a little bit more customer friendly maybe?
Yeah, I think BrewDog have done incredibly well, and the reason we use them is that we were doing an equity raise, and because of Equity for Punks, BrewDog have to release company accounts, and it provides us quite a good proxy for where it could go. I mean, BrewDog have recently valued the business at £100 million in Equity for Punks 3, which I just think is slightly ludicrous. But then fair play to them. I think there's a market in between that. It doesn't have to be real ale in the traditional sense of that's what your granddad drinks, and I don't think it has to be craft beer in the way that if you're probably not going to like this because you're not a punk. There's a middle ground, and don't get me wrong, I love summer brewdog's beer, and I've got a couple of Punk IPA in the fridge. It's a great beer, but I think that there is a better way of going about marketing yourself potentially. That's not to say they've done a bad job at all.
Yeah.
But I don't think you have to be that offensive. We were coming up with kind of strap lines for the business and talking about how we advertise ourselves, and we were saying why not produce a beer that's exclusively for everyone? All right,
like it.
But it's
really
quite
nice.
nice. So you can have a beer that appeals to the 20-something who's a bit of a hipster and a bit of a but then you can also have a beer that your granddad can walk into the pub and sip, and it's not going to offend him. You can use a brand to create interesting flavours, and I think different beers will suit different things, different seasons, and I think as long as you're adaptive to that, whilst maintaining a core selection of beers that really sell well, you're going to do really well, and I think we can do that.
So that's a little bit about your business, a little bit about you now, James. What is it? You mentioned right at the beginning that you fed up drinking lager.
Yeah.
So that was obviously what pushed you towards real ales, craft beers. Is there any more history to that? How far back does your love affair with real beer go?
I suppose I was at university down in Exeter, and Dunbar is the drink of choice. And it's probably unlike most students to actually go out and have a session on Dunbar, which is what we used to do. And I liked it, and I moved away from there, and I kind of started to struggle to find other things to drink, and kind of when you're at rugby socials and events, you're force-fed snake bite and lager, and you get to a point where you kind of go. Not fussed about that anymore, I just quite fancy something with a bit of flavour and not something that's going to make me feel hideous the next day. And then I bought my old man a home brew kit. It was one of those standard 40-litre type jobs, he loved it. Started going at it, and I was kind of working with him when I was 18, 19. And then that developed. I then bought, the next Christmas he then bought me the same kit, and I took that home. My girlfriend loathed me for about a year as I spilt hops all over her cooker, because I was trying to do very American hoppy IPAs on my stove at home, which didn't work very well. Actually, to be fair, some of them were really drinkable, but it wasn't a way of doing it properly. And then I just started to get excited about it and started to get interested in it. I went on several brew days. I went up to see a guy called Ed at Leather Britches Brewery in the Midlands. He operates a 20-barrel system, and he does it on his own, and he just loves it. He's slightly mad, but at the same time really passionate about what he does, and kind of seeing how excited people can get about what they're producing is really nice to see. I think currently my girlfriend and I are both in the city, and at the end of the day you finish with no tangible thing you can touch. You've crunched numbers on Excel all day, or you've made a few phone calls or sent some emails, but there's nothing you can touch, nothing you can hold up and say, I'm proud of that, I've made that. And so why not do that, and why not create something that we can kind of stand up next to and say, yeah, that's ours, that's and all the investors who have come on board via Crowdcube, they can walk into their local pub, and if Hot Stuff's on, they can buy a pint and say, well, I invested in that, that's my company, which I think is quite exciting, because you don't often get that with anything less than AB InBev and the kind of SAB Miller type massive mega breweries. There's kind of no market beyond that for people to actually own a stake in the business.
You mentioned there that the guy you met operated a 20-barrel system.
Yeah.
You're doing a 10-barrel system.
Yes.
for our listeners that aren't aware what that means, you want to just explain that to us? What does it actually mean?
A brewer's barrel is 163.3 litres. So you times that out and you run 2 fermenters a week typically. So that allows you to produce about 3,200 litres of beer, basically.
Okay.
So divide that down, it's about 5,000 pints-ish. I'm just using proxies. We opted to go for the 10 barrel for a couple of reasons. One is cost. A 10 barrel system is a great one to start with, and you can build an awful lot of market presence with it. By adding extra fermenting vessels and stuff, you can actually produce an awful lot of beer if you're willing to run it several times during the week and not sleep very much, which is something I'm fine with. And it allows you to produce an awful lot, and then you can scale in parts. So maybe 1 month or 6 months you buy a 20 barrel mash tun, which can then sit until you have the money for the next one, and you can scale like that, and you can do half brews and stuff. I think the 10 barrel system is an optimal one for us to start brewing, to build a really good support network of local pubs and wider afield as well. I mean, we're having talks already with people in the Nordic countries about export. They're really interested. They like the brands, and that sort of stuff, which is great for us. And a 10 barrel system allows us to do that. Any more, I think we would have had to have raised an awful lot more on Crowdcube, and we would have put ourselves under an awful lot more pressure to start. And I don't think the right way to brew beer is to worry about the finances from the first get-go. You need to make sure that you're producing great beer, and great beer will sell itself, and a good brand that you're supporting will sell itself. I think if you buy a 20 barrel system and you go £100,000 in debt from day one, you're constantly worrying about the bank manager or whoever it is, and maybe your ingredients get a bit sloppy or whatever it is. So that's why we went for a 10 barrel, and I think that's the right choice for us to start.
Okay. You clearly know your beer, and
I hope so.
you love beer, and you're clearly passionate about it. We like to do a thing on our interviews called Desert Island Beers, not ripped off from anywhere at all. But if you were stranded on a desert island and you can only take one beer with you, what would it be?
One beer.
One beer. And that's all you'd be drinking for the rest of your life.
Okay. That's a really tough one. There's one beer I'm desperate to try, and I haven't come across it yet. And it's Head in the Hat Brewery in southeast London. They do a gin beer. Okay. And I am intrigued to try it, because we actually thought of doing something similar before we knew about this. So it's a bit of a risky move, but I'll go with their gin beer, because I'm desperate to try it, and that will give me plenty of opportunity to rip it off.
Brilliant, excellent. Okay, so just a few last questions.
Yeah.
When does production start? When do you think you're going to be able to start your production, and when can we expect to see your first beers?
Short answer is October. Longer answer is that's subject to all of our input, installation, everything like that. I mean, being optimistic, September, October. Being realistic, probably October, November.
Okay. And it goes without saying, we would love to come down and do a follow-up visit with you once you've got your premises up and running, once you're brewing. We'd be more than keen to have you come back on the show.
That'd be great.
We'd love to review some of your beers as well, and have you on and actually to review them with us as well.
Yeah.
So that would be great. Final word from you. Do you want to just give us the website address so people can have a look?
Yeah, sure.
And just give us how people get in touch with you as well. Maybe you talk about a social media presence in your business proposal. Give us your Twitter address as well so people can get in touch with you.
Yeah. So our website is hopstuffbrewery.com. Quite simple, easy to remember. We're on Twitter, Hopstuff Brewery. We're on Facebook, Hopstuff London. And my email address, feel free to get in touch, is james@hotstuffbrewery. Happy to speak to anyone. I mean, part of the fundraising process and everything we've been going through so far, everything's been so interactive. It's been so exciting for me to have people coming up and saying, oh, I love the idea, I love what you're doing. We've actually had a lot of people contact us since we closed funding to say, how do I get involved? Which is a real shame, and I think, look out for Kickstarter. We're looking to do something on there if you want to get involved and want to support us. And just look out for the website, follow us on Twitter, and hopefully coming to a pub near you soon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, James. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.